What's up, horror fans? This is Anchor Pete, and I'm here with my wife, SHARI T. And for the Lasercast channel, we are covering 31 days of Halloween. And so each day, we are recording a new video where we're reviewing a horror movie. Danny, Chris, and I are each reviewing 10 horror movies a piece, and we're enjoying it. SHARI and I just watched the first movie I'm going to talk about. We watched The Wicker Man from 1973. Starring the late, great Christopher Lee. And so, SHARI and I have not discussed the film. We just watched it like 5 minutes ago. And now I'm going to turn to SHARI, and I'm going to ask her, what did you think of The Wicker Man?
It was better than I expected.
Okay.
We saw Midsummer when it came out, and I definitely see that it was highly influenced by The Wicker Man. I like to know the origin of modern films, so yeah, a lot of Wicker Man there, and I thought it was interesting. Well, do you want to just dive in, or do you want to have a place you want to start?
Yeah. I was gonna just give a little background on the film.
Go ahead.
So here's the deal, right? If you haven't seen The Wicker Man, the movie's only an hour and a half. I highly recommend going to see it. As SHARI just said, it has certainly been an influence on many horror movies and a lot of movies that you probably love from the present day. Besides the clear inspiration for Midsommar, also there's many modern movies where like the killers wear animal masks, and that was pretty prevalent in this movie too. And there's a lot of creepy imagery throughout this movie. So I recommend watching The Wicker Man if you haven't yet. But I just want to give you a little background.
Not the Nicolas Cage version.
Definitely not. Yeah, and we'll talk about that one in 2 minutes too. But for this one, The Wicker Man came out in 1973, and it's considered a folk horror film. Okay? And it was directed by Robin Hardy.
Had no idea that was a category.
Yeah. And the screenplay was by a guy named Anthony Shaffer. And he wrote the screenplay based on a book by David Pinner, which the book was called Ritual. And so I think that's probably a fitting title, considering what happens in this movie. Right?
I like the name The Wicker Man better, though, considering what happens in this movie. And I just want to point out, I don't usually see opening credits with the screenplay writer's name included. What's his name?
Anthony Shaffer.
So when the title of the movie comes out, it says Anthony Shaffer's Wicker Man.
Yeah.
You don't usually see that.
Yeah.
Screenplay writers are notoriously underappreciated, so
yeah,
I thought that was nice.
Yeah, and so I was just doing a little bit of research before the movie began, and the reason why Anthony Shaffer wrote this adaptation of the novel Ritual, or he was inspired by it, was because Christopher Lee, at this time, right before The Wicker Man came out, he had been in all these Hammer horror films where he was like playing Dracula, and he wanted to expand his acting career.
What did you call them?
Dracula.
Hammer horror films?
Hammer horror films.
What's a Hammer horror film?
Great question. That's a good thing for this topic, since we're in the Halloween season.
I know what Dracula is.
I know. Okay, good. Hammer is the name of a brand of horror films that were made in Britain, and I believe it started in the 1960s, but it might have even gone back earlier, and it was certainly in the 70s. And Christopher Lee was a major actor in those films. Like, how we have Blumhouse now? That's like a studio that makes horror movies. The Hammer's kind of like that, but they made like movies based on classic horror characters, like Dracula.
So it's the name of a movie studio.
Movie studio, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and they adapted. You'd like this. They adapted a lot of Edgar Allan Poe things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they didn't just do like Dracula and that kind of monster stuff. They would do all kinds of like mysteries and and so Christopher Lee is from there, and then Peter Cushing, like a lot of people that are in like Star Wars started out in these Hammer films. Okay. So anyway, he wanted to expand his acting chops, I guess, and he had them start working on this movie, and it was an adaptation of this novel Ritual, right? So he plays Lord Summerisle, and he is the head of this British island. And it's the setting for The Wicker Man. And a detective, a Sergeant Neil Howie, shows up in his little airplane and lands on this island, and the island is called Summerisle, right? And I could tell you were digging the music when his plane was flying over the island, right?
The movie is full of folksy 70s Peter, Paul, and Mary type music, which actually adds to the weirdness and creepiness eventually.
Yeah.
At first, I just didn't really know what to make of it and thought it was silly. But, yeah, it kind of started to work on me. It was creepy.
So I was going to ask you this. Do you feel like the movie could almost be classified as a musical?
It's funny you say that. I was thinking, no, I wouldn't classify it as a musical, but it is a musical in disguise, sort of. They threw in people singing everywhere they freaking could.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's funny. But the lyrics to their songs and the times they choose to sing are, if you listen, it's weird. It's weird, but it's all like little clues to what's going on this island.
Yes.
It adds up.
So I should point out that The Wicker Man is one of my top 5 favorite horror movies of all time.
Show me your shirt.
There you go.
He has a shirt.
Of the movie, yeah. Look at that. Anyway.
And it doesn't say Wicker Man, so if you don't know the movie,
then
you're out of luck.
Yeah. So listen.
We just, okay.
So the reason why The Wicker Man is in my top 5 is there's essentially 3 reasons, right? It has these musical moments, and the music is eerie and it sticks with you and you kind of remember them, right? Every time I would hear them, it was like listening to a band in concert, like playing their greatest hits, right? Like, oh yeah, that song, right? The corn, leaves, and barley corn, right? That song in the very beginning, where he's in the plane. Another reason why The Wicker Man stands out so much is because it's just chock full of weird imagery. And often it's just like you're looking at the weird imagery from the detective's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no music or anything. You're just like staring at this weird imagery, right? And then the third...
For example.
We're going to talk about all the examples. Let me get to my third reason, though. You ready for this? Third reason is, of course, the finale. I think the finale is like, the money shot. It's like the best part of the whole movie.
Chef's kiss.
Yes. So I'm going to ask you about the ending in a couple of minutes, but let's just summarize for people who have not seen The Wicker Man, just basically the basic summary of the plot. This detective shows up, Sergeant Howie, shows up on Summerisle, and he starts asking people questions about a missing girl. Her name is Rowan Morrison. Rowan Morrison is like a teenage girl, and he got a note sent to him individually saying that she's missing. And so he asks people about her, and he gets conflicting answers. Some people act as if they've never seen her. Some people act as if they have seen her, but they don't know where she is now. Other people claim that she's dead and that she's been reincarnated as a hare, And for you guys, when I say hare, I just mean like a rabbit, basically. But they make the distinction of that in this movie, too.
Yes, it's not the same.
Yeah, it's not the same. And, he just encounters all these kind of quirky, weird people. And just throughout his investigations, he sees these weird rituals going on. And the rituals are usually accompanied by these musical moments. Mm-hmm. And so I was going to ask you, SHARI, what do you think was your favorite musical moment / weird ritual?
Well, there's one in particular that does stand out, and it is when the actress, her character's named Willow.
Right.
And she sings this song trying to lure the main character, who is an outsider on this island. She sings this song trying to lure him to her bedroom because she's some sort of Aphrodite type.
Yeah.
I'm not even clear what her role... I'm clear about what her role is, I think. Actually, I'm not.
Okay. Yeah, she's like
she's some sort of sex goddess. I know, but what is that supposed to amount to? It's just one of the weird pagan things going on that they don't totally explain.
Right.
But she's definitely someone who has sex with all the men on the island. It seems like she's the one who breaks everyone in, maybe.
Well, all right, this is getting hardcore right away. But yes.
Okay. It's one of the most intriguing parts, right? Because she's really gorgeous, whoever the actress is. What's her name?
So her name is Britt Ekland.
She's gorgeous, and as soon as she comes on, you're like, oh, whoa, what's going on here? And then when she comes out, too, she's like the innkeeper's daughter. The whole bar breaks into a song about her, I think, and about how, all the men can't resist her.
And there's some, lewd lyrics to this song. Mm-hmm. And the way the guys all react, they're like, and it's very weird because her father's right there just kind of singing along and swaying back and forth.
He's in on it.
While they're singing this pervy song, you know? And what is great about that scene, and many scenes throughout the movie, is that as this weird stuff is happening, you have this like total straight-laced police sergeant that's this like hardcore Christian, and he's not having any of this. Like 50% of the movie or more is him just scowling at people like not believing what he's seeing with these pagan beliefs.
He's not having it, but he also does very little about it. He throws out a lot of threats.
He does throw out a lot of threats.
That's about it.
He warns people they're going to get charged for obstruction. Like he does it like 8 times. You'll be held for an obstruction. You know?
Yeah, and I really love how all the townspeople are just like really not concerned with him. They're just like, okay, have a nice day.
No.
Like, I like that.
No one's intimidated by him, from like the elderly guys that are showing him their costumes that they made, down to the little kids in the classroom who are just like, okay, whatever, man.
Yeah,
whatever you're saying.
Everyone seems to be privately amused. And you're the viewer you're kind of with the newcomer, because we also as a viewer are new to this island. And it's fun to kind of see why no one's concerned. Eventually it all comes out, but
yeah. So let's get to the part where it all comes out, and then we can maybe talk about some of the weird imagery and stuff too. Okay.
Okay.
So the reason why everyone on the island doesn't seem intimidated by this, law enforcement guy, is because they planned this. They sent a note to him to come to the island. They researched him. They saw that he was this perfect match for this sacrifice that they intend to do on May Day. And he fits what they need to a T. He is a virgin. He's saving himself from marriage. He's engaged, but he's waiting until he's married.
Which I don't know how they know that.
Maybe they did some real thorough research, you know. And besides that, he is a police officer, and he just basically jumped at the opportunity to kind of wield his power throughout this village. And he is also very strong in his faith. And so they think he's this perfect guy to use for their ritual. The reason why they're going to have a ritual is because on this island, the island is known for producing lots of fruits and vegetables. And within the past year, the crops have been failing. And so they feel like, okay, if we sacrifice an adult, then it will make our crops return and the island will be vital again, right? Or, I don't know, vital.
Is this movie also an inspiration for Moana?
Oh my God.
I'm just kidding, but that is kind of the premise of Moana, as far as the island's failing with the crops and why she has to go out and find the heart of Te-Fiti, but much happier story there. Right.
Well, so all this stuff does harken back to older beliefs that predate Christianity. And so this detective, when he's looking at it, he just sees it as pagan beliefs, and he just thinks that the children are being corrupted and that everyone is basically a lunatic on this island. And what happens is, at the very end, they're going to have their May Day. There's 3 roles that can be that are important to this May Day ceremony. Mm-hmm. There's one where there's a hobby horse kind of guy. He's got a little rocking horse that with a jaw that snaps shut, and he's supposed to kind of jump at the women and kind of freak them out. Then there is Punch the Fool, who looks like, one of those Punch puppets with the mask and little bell thing on his head.
So creepy.
Yeah, and creepy in this as well. And then last but not least, Christopher Lee, who is the head of the island. He's in this sort of male-female role where he kind of looks like a woman. He's supposed to be this sort of both gender.
He's in drag, but right. I've never understood really why.
Yeah, I guess sometimes with deities, it's the idea that they have both genders and something about that. So anyway, there's these 3 roles. The Sergeant Howie knocks out the innkeeper, and he puts on his fool costume, and he infiltrates the ceremony. But you see that this is all part of their plan. He's playing the role of the fool, and now it's his turn to be sacrificed. He finds Rowan. The girl is alive. She leads him through a cave, and once they get out of the cave, he's on the edge of a cliff, and he realizes he's been cornered, and they are going to kill him. So they bring him to the Wicker Man itself, and there's animals inside of it.
Live animals.
Yeah, he's cleaned up. They put him in a robe. They bring him into the Wicker Man, and then they set the Wicker Man on fire. And for those of you that have watched the movie, the most iconic scene is when he's going over the hill and he sees the Wicker Man, and he goes, "Oh Christ! oh, Jesus Christ, right? Like, that's the scene of the movie.
Oh, is it?
Oh, yeah, yeah. And as a matter of fact, I was going to say that in my research, it said that Bravo did a 100 greatest horror movie moments of all time, and that was number 45, was that moment when he's coming over the hill and he's going, oh, Jesus Christ!
The first viewing of The Wicker Man.
Yes,
right?
yes.
Okay.
Yes, exactly. And speaking of those lists, I also just wanted to point out that in 2004, a magazine called Total Film Magazine actually named The Wicker Man as the 6th greatest British film of all time. So it has a following, and it has always had strong critical reception. Critics have liked this movie. And if I've ever talked to someone who's seen it, they really do like it a lot.
Yeah. There's something about being the only one when everyone's looking at you and you're going to die and no one's helping you.
Yeah.
And they're, in fact, enjoying in this moment where you're getting sacrificed. I mean, there's something about having all these people and you're calling out for help and no one will help you. That's terrifying.
Yeah. Yeah, so...
and the whole thing's in broad daylight, most of it.
Yeah.
Most of the movie, which also... I read that about some Midsummer, that it's the scariest movie you'll see in broad daylight, and this movie did it first.
Yes,
I like that.
Yes. So what I was going to say to you, SHARI, was that it's kind of interesting because it is a horror movie. It's very creepy, and I think you probably do feel disturbed after watching it, right? Is that safe to say?
Yes.
But yet, there really isn't any kind of murder. There isn't any kind of mutilation. There isn't any jump scares.
Mm-hmm.
Yet you still do feel upset and disturbed watching it.
It's because the whole idea of their pagan lifestyle is a threat to our Christian lifestyle.
Okay. I really do think that the main reason why you're affected by the movie is because of that last scene and his performance as he's being led up to the Wicker Man and when he's inside of it. And when they're all, maybe this ties into what you're saying, everyone in the village is gleefully singing as he's burning to death and screaming. And it just cuts from the Wicker Man burning to them singing with big smiles on their faces.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah. It's like a nightmare.
Yeah.
Like that you would have, I do like that you expect, you always hear in the old tales that it's a young girl, a virgin who's going to be sacrificed. I like that they didn't do that. I like that the young girl, the virgin, or I don't even know if she's a virgin, whatever. The young girl is not the sacrifice. These people protected their own, and they went and got an outsider, a stranger, someone they didn't care about who wasn't one of them. And, apparently this worthy man that they felt would please the gods.
Yeah.
I did like that. I like that it wasn't just this poor girl getting sacrificed.
Yeah. So there's only one real death in the movie, and it's the main character, and we're with him for every scene.
Mm-hmm.
So, let's talk about the imagery that stood out and things that might have bothered you. Because there are not really any murders or any kind of scenes of suspense, but there is weird stuff that just kind of makes you feel on edge, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what stood out? What can you remember from your first viewing?
I was disturbed by the kids singing in the maypole scene. The words that all these children are singing, and while they're doing this maypole thing, and the teacher's leading them in song. I found that pretty disturbing. They do a weird dance that might be in my dreams tonight, but just also people openly having sex outside with right next to each other. I think that might always creep me out. To me, that is disturbing because it's just, I guess because I wouldn't do that.
Right.
It never seems to be a good thing when you see that kind of scene.
Yes. Yeah. That stood out. And then that scene that you're talking about with the maypole, that song always stands out. And on that tree, there was a boy. And on the,
it's actually a little catchy.
Real catchy.
Don't let me sing it.
I don't know what that instrument is called, where you flick it by your mouth, but it has some prongs going meow, meow, meow.
Oh yeah, it makes that noise.
Yeah. I don't know what that's called.
I don't know either.
But I love that because that's how the song. It's just a guy going meow, 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 and then they start singing. Guys oh, there was a boy. And I love that shit. So anyway, that scene absolutely stands out, but there's random weird imagery throughout this whole thing, right? I kind of forget it. You remember the songs, you remember the end, but then I'm like, this random shit. Like one point, he's walking through a cemetery, and there's a woman, and you're looking through his perspective, so you're seeing it through his eyes. You're looking dead set at a woman sitting in a cemetery, breastfeeding a child, and she's just holding an egg.
Yeah, that's right.
You know?
That was weird. I assumed it had something to do with fertility, and they had talked about trees growing out of graves, and I mean, the weird thing is I can kind of a little bit understand what they're doing.
Yeah.
Once you hear their backgrounds and the basis for their beliefs and stuff, you can kind of understand what's going on. But yes, that was disturbing. How about the cakes and this kind of sweet shop? It's supposed to be, I guess, kind of what they would consider their donut shop or what have you. But the cakes are like these naked bodies and naked babies and stuff. And they show them cutting into that with the little girl sitting there all cheery and happy. What about the frog scene?
So SHARI hates frogs, right?
I don't hate them. I have a phobia.
I don't want to say that you hate them. Yeah, they bother you, right? So if stuff happens to frogs, it really bothers her. And there's this one scene,
or just a close up of them.
Yeah, where Rowan's mother is with her sister, and the mother, I guess, has some sort of like pagan, treatment, puts a frog in the sister's mouth to help her with her sore throat. So they put a live frog in the girl's mouth, and then they take the frog out. And SHARI just couldn't watch that.
I couldn't even look at that, but the little moment I saw or whatever kind of is bothering me. I'll tell you that. But she says the frog took the sore throat, right?
Yes.
So again, I sort of understand what's going on,
Yeah. And, and then there's also stuff that's just like implied by what people are saying. And I think it was really kind of creepy and interesting too. For instance, they keep talking about reincarnation on this island, right? And so when the detective goes to the cemetery, he does find a grave, and there's a lot of graves there, but he finds a specific grave he's looking for. He finds Rowan's grave, and all the graves have trees planted in them, which is part of this, reincarnation cycle.
Right, you're supposed to die, and then your ashes become trees. It's not that far fetched or anything. I mean,
no. And so the guy that I guess the graveyard keeper or whatever, he's there and he's helping out and he's pointing out the tree. He's like, that's Rowan's tree, right? And then there's like this weird thing hanging from the tree. It's like this long pink thing. And Sergeant Howie's like, well, what is that? And he's like, that's Rowan's navel or whatever. He says something like that. And, it's just disturbing because at that point you think that could really be her navel and that she was murdered.
Yeah.
And eventually the sergeant is able to dig her up out of the ground. They're going to take her body for...
Which is absurd.
An autopsy.
Which is absurd.
Yeah, because the implication was that she's been dead for months.
Well, and that one single policeman would come to this island and dig up a grave.
Yeah.
That's not how the police...
Yeah.
I'm no expert, but I don't think that's how the police work.
Yeah, so they dig up her grave, and then inside the grave is a hair.
A pretty fresh one.
Yeah. So, it's going along with their deception, but when you're watching it, it's just kind of disturbing and weird. It just always gives you that sense of what's going on here and, something bad is coming. And the Wicker Man itself is disturbing when you think of a person burning to death, but it's not gruesome the way it's done. You see kind of a close-up of him as it's on fire, but then you just hear him screaming from far away.
Yeah.
So the movie's not really gruesome in any way.
No, it's not gruesome. And I think it's hard to do a burning to death scene in a very gruesome way, with the exception of Raiders of the Lost Ark. You do a good job, but that's the only movie I've seen really do a good job, because usually the flames engulf the person, you can't even really see what's happening.
Yes.
And that's what happens here. You can't really see anything.
So, in 1989, Shaffer, the writer, right, the screenwriter, right, he wrote a script for a sequel to The Wicker Man. It was called The Loathsome Lambton Worm.
Are you having trouble reading your own?
My own, yes. SHARI loves my penmanship. The Loathsome Lambton Worm. And the thing is that Robin Hardy did not want it directed, so it never was made. He did, though, in 2011, write The Wicker Tree, which is what's called a spiritual sequel to the movie. So it's not like it's actually in the same world. Or
like Exorcist 3?
I'll
answer my own question. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
Like Halloween 3.
Yeah. You got it, guys. And so, I'm okay. Here's the deal. I think Sherry's answers might be right, but I know definite examples. I just can't think of them. It's kind of late at night. But in this spiritual sequel that came out in 2011, Christopher Lee actually got to make a cameo too.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was going to ask you, Sherry, as we're kind of wrapping this up, right? What did you think of Christopher Lee's performance? Are you familiar with his work at all?
I've seen Dracula, but it's been a very long time. I never really and I've seen, the Lord of the Rings.
Oh, Saruman. Yeah, hell yeah.
So that's all I've seen him in. I'm not really a fan of his looks. I thought he was good in this. He's creepy. He's convincing. Like, I like that he's just like, he believes what he believes. I like that the main character, the fool, I don't even know his name. I will call him the fool.
Sergeant Howie.
He kind of tries to throw out to these people, he's wrong about this. Your crops are failing because it's not meant to work on an island. And he's just like, no, you're wrong. It's going to work. And the people, he's so strong in his conviction and his beliefs and these gods and his way of life. He does a good job, I think.
Yeah.
And he looks like kind of regal yet nuts.
Yes,
his hair flying everywhere.
Yes.
So I liked him. I thought he was good in the part.
Yeah, I think he's actually pretty charming in this, and he shows off his singing voice at one point when he's playing the.
Yes, he sings lovely.
Christopher Lee has this like incredible deep voice, and when he says things, he enunciates them so clearly. So the combination of his deep voice and the way that he pronounces things, oh man, it's so good. Just like you eat up everything that he says.
Speak for yourself. I didn't feel that way. In fact, I had a hard time understanding him sometimes.
Okay, well, that's good.
We're allowed to disagree.
Yeah, I just love him from even when he's in Gremlins 2, and of course, like you said,
he's in Gremlins 2.
Hell yeah, we should cover that shit on here too. And our daughters see Gremlins too. But yeah, and of course, Lord of the Rings, and then even in like the freaking Star Wars prequels, even though he's this lame character, he's still great in that too. So you know what? I think that's pretty much it for the Wicker Man for our little review. I just want to say, Sherry, I really appreciate you watching this with me. Just a little real quick story. I used to have this friend in New York. His name was Ted. And Ted was a bit older than me, like 12, 13 years older than me. And one day he just brought the DVD of The Wicker Man to me, right? And he's, it was like 13 years ago, 14 years ago. And he said, you just watch this. And I watched it all the way to the end. And even just that last shot, right, where the Wicker Man, the head falls down and it cuts up to the sun, right? Like,
it's a pretty good finale.
Yes, absolutely. I just, I love the movie, and I was really glad to have it on DVD. And I'm just really eager to, it's great to be able to talk about it with you guys. So,
did you ask him why he didn't bring the Nicolas Cage version?
The Nicolas Cage version hadn't come out at that point. The Nicolas Cage version came out in 2011. And that movie is just like a complete and utter farce.
No, it is.
Yeah, but I highly recommend, if you want a good laugh, in the moment, just go on YouTube and just like look up. There's like a compilation of like the greatest scenes from that movie.
From Wicker Man?
The Nicolas Cage one.
They have great scenes, a compilation?
Yeah, it's like...
Why, is he the fool character?
He's the fool character.
Is he overacting his little heart out?
Oh, you have no idea.
I do, because I know Nicolas Cage, but...
Yeah. And Sherry, at one point, they put like a helmet on his head that's full of bees, too.
Why?
It's just part of their version of the ritual, too. So it's and in that version, the island is all women. There's no men on the island. And it has actually quite a few female actresses that I think that you respect too.
Who?
I'm pretty sure it has the mom from The Exorcist.
Ellen Bernstein?
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's a couple other ones that stand out.
I do want to say something about the films from this time period. They are inherently creepy, just the way cinematography looked or what they were able to do. Everything looks creepy to me. So it's already like a plus if you want to make a horror film in that time, because that's a time period of like The Exorcist, The Omen.
Right. You're saying
Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Oh yeah, that's pretty creepy.
Which is not supposed to be a horror film, but has that terrible creepy
boat ride part.
Scene.
Yeah,
it still has that same sort of vibe that kind of gives me the creeps.
Yeah.
Anyway, so.
Rosemary's Baby,
that's right. So this time period like lends itself well, I think, to creepiness. Oh, and Picnic at Hanging Rock. If you haven't seen that, it's really good.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I have not seen that.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah. Maybe that'll be one of the ones that we cover.
It's maybe more of a thriller, but Psychological thriller.
Yeah.
Anyway, so good.
Yeah. Well, yeah, well, maybe we'll check that out. Sherry and I are actually going to discuss a few more horror movies in October. That's our plan. I'm supposed to review 10 movies for the Lastercast channel, and Sherry and I are probably going to have a few of these longer length discussions, like 30-minute discussions, probably like maybe 2 or 3 more times. Okay? So, and my movies that I've picked are very random, so don't expect a pattern. Chris has got like the Rob Zombie movies, and Danny's got like Nightmare on Elm Street movies, but my movies are all over the place. So, anyway, I hope that you guys enjoyed this, and there's more to come this month. And Sherry, as always, thank you so much for watching something with me and talking about it.
Thanks for having me. Let's go burn some incense.
There you go. And burn some Fool Detective Virgin Men. See ya.